with their country notes, and we are here with the Oak Ridge Boys having a great day today. Backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. How are you guys?
We're great, Amanda.
Good.
Change must. Did you hear that laughing?
That's right. That's awesome. Well, we are here to talk about your newest project. You guys are coming out March 16th?
Yes.
With your new album, 17th Avenue Revival. How excited are you guys to put this album out?
Well, I'll tell you, we're very excited because when we were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in October of 2015, it was a great moment for us, and we wanted to do something really good. We wanted to do a monumental project after that, and it took us a while to plan it out. We wanted Dave Cobb to get involved with it because we'd worked with Dave before everybody knew who Dave Cobb was in town. We recorded with Dave. And Dave said, hey man, we're family, I'm on board, but I got a lot going right now, give me some time to think on it. So some time went by and we wondered, well, I don't know, is this going to happen or not? Dave's a busy guy. And then Dave said, okay, guys, let's have lunch at the Pie Wagon and talk about this project. So we all went downtown and we had this great, great lunch with Dave. All of a sudden he had that little child vision that Dave gets. And he said, I've got a vision, guys. You know, you guys, listen to this. We don't have to cut a gospel album per se, but I want the attitude there. And the attitude I'm looking for is, what was it that turned the old early rock and roll guys on? What was it about them that turned you on to early rock and roll? Right. We're talking Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Ray Charles, the old blues guys. What did they all have in common?
Right.
And it was their love of gospel. It was their background in gospel. They all grew up in church and they had this passionate, big time feel to what they were doing, and it excited all of us. Well, Dave wanted to recreate that on this album and tap into the roots of that.
Yes.
And his feeling, and one thing he said there was, you guys are the only group act in the world that could 4 guys gather around a microphone and sing and make that happen.
Yes.
Let's make it happen. Well, my gosh, you talk about excitement. We were burning up the parking lot of the Pie Wagon. We were so excited about following Dave down this road. Early summer, in fact, he was so excited about it, we went in the studio even earlier than we were planning. We had this.
2 months.
Yeah, we had the session playing later in the summer, and all of a sudden Dave calls us in June and says, "Come on, guys, let's go. Let's get this done. Come on down to RCA Studio A, and let's go to work." And so, boom, we did it. And 17th Avenue Revival, I think, is a very, very cool album. I think we accomplished all the goals musically, spiritually, and everything else. And Dave's vision was manifested in that album, and I think it's one of the greatest things we've ever done.
It is awesome. We are lucky enough that we got to preview the album before coming to talk to you today, and I love it. And you have huge, huge songwriters on this album too. Shane McAnally, Vince Gill, Ashley Monroe, Brandy Clark. Were they people that you sought out to write songs for you, or were these songs that they had already written that you guys found, or how did kind of all that come about to have all those on your album?
We didn't really seek them out. I think the songs were there. In fact, the first song that Dave mentioned at the Pie Wagon was If I Die, written by Vince and Ashley. And he said, this is an example of what I'm talking about. It's not a gospel song per se, but yet it's got this thing. And it's got this spiritual thing to it. And that was the first song. He played it on his iPhone. And I knew the song from Vince Gill's album, actually. And I said, oh yeah. I said, well man, oh man, I love Vince Gill's cut. He said, but forget Vince Gill's cut. He said, I've got a vision for this a lot simpler and a lot raw. And he gave the whole song to Golden to sing. And we just ooh on it. I think it's the only album on there that we just do a little ooh, and then Golden carries the whole song. And Pray to Jesus, Dwayne found, and of course, Brandy and Shane. I mean, that's a great song, isn't it?
Yes,
you listen
it's
to
awesome.
it, and it's fun to sing it. It just flows, and every line is great. Such great writers. And but yet Dave took that song and made it old boogie woogie rock and roll.
Yes, he did.
You know, he did. He put this that old thing he tapped into for us. That Dave has a great knack of doing something real retro and making it sound like it's fresh and new.
It is. I loved it. It was awesome.
So yeah, we've got these old songs that we dug way back for, like Richard singing, I want to be ready. I mean, that's old me going, God's got it. I mean, that's like from way back in, in time and space and time. But there are, as you said, newer songs as well, written by great young writers.
For sure. And there have been a lot. You guys started out kind of as a gospel doing that, but there have also been a lot of hit artists. Hillary Scott, Linda Davis, and their family did a huge gospel album. Reba just had a Grammy-winning gospel album. How important is it during this time with everything that our world is going through to kind of help get this message out and go back to the gospel and go back to the roots, and kind of how important is that to you guys?
That's a really good question. First of all, I don't think we set out to cut a gospel record, but I think we got our attitude there, and a lot of the songs just led us there, and we followed. And maybe that was all meant to be. I was thinking while we were talking just a minute ago about I'd Rather Have Jesus, which is the number 2 song on the huge Billy Graham crusades that took place in New York City at Yankee Stadium years ago. And George Beverly Shea wrote that song, that arrangement to that song. And we recorded it back in July, but it's just now being released. And with losing Billy Graham, and he's all over the news and everything, I think it's maybe not coincidental, maybe it was intentional that we cut that song at this time because it has such a good message, and that's where it came from. But we went back and got an old Jerry Lee Lewis version of that song.
That's awesome.
That was even more simple than George Beverly Shea sang. And once again, William nailed that song. I think the message in that song is so strong, and I don't know that we were thinking about how what a great timing this was when we were recording. I don't know that we even talked about that, but it certainly has turned out that way. There Will Be Light, which was written by Buddy Cannon and Jamie Johnson and Larry Shale, 3 of our master writers in town. I actually had that song for 2 years before we ever got the deal, and Dave approved it 2 years before. But we didn't start picking songs until actually that meeting that Joe talked about is when we found the direction. We already had that song. But I got an email from a person who he and his wife had been going through fertilization to have a baby. And they had all failed, and they had just come from the doctor's office, and the latest one had failed again. And he got a click on his iPhone. He said, "You got to download. You can go get that." And There Will Be Light came up. This was last week now. This is just happened. And I've got it in writing too. I don't want to say who it is. I just say that he's a good friend of ours. And he and his wife sat there and listened to that song for about 10 times through, and it restored their faith. And they were very depressed. And I think there are legs to these songs. They're going to step out into places that maybe we didn't even think about when we cut them. We just knew we loved them, and they were great songs, well-written songs. But I think they're even more than that. I think our world needs to hear something today that's got faith attached to it. And we're all faith men. And it was easy for us to go there. Maybe we didn't think about it like that when we were doing it, but because we're already there, we captured some things in the moment. William Lee said, talking a while ago, that you could feel the Spirit in these songs, the Spirit of God. And we all believe in that. And I think sometimes we take some things for granted, and possibly we did there and didn't realize how strong these songs really are. And I think that's an extra blessing that we're going to get out of this project.
And I think you will. I think you'll see that going forward. Listening to the whole album, Let There Be Light was probably my favorite on there. You know, it's one of those songs that the first time you hear it, you want to keep listening to it, like you said, because it just really
It's so simple.
Yes.
So simple, you know, that there's the darkness of night and there's a light.
Yes.
And the Bible tells us that in Him all is light. There's no darkness at all.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
It is going to be an incredible journey. You guys have been so busy. We were talking before about the tour press stuff that you guys are going around. Monday, we were at your show at the CMA Theater. You guys were amazing.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, and our senior correspondent, Lindsay, couldn't be here with us today, but she was there. And one of the things that she mentioned that was so cool is that the writer of Elvira was in the audience. And was that the first time that you guys had sang that song in front of him live?
Yeah, as amazing as that may seem, Dallas Frazier wrote that song so many years ago. The song hit for us big in '81. And Dallas had never heard us sing it live. I mean, we know Dallas well. He's been a brother, a friend. He's written other songs for us. But he had never sat in an audience and heard the Oak Ridge Boys sing the monster hit that he wrote, Elvira, until the other night. And if you'd have seen him down there just beaming, he was like the sunshine down there.
That is so awesome.
It was a great, great experience for all of us. And as Lynn said, I think even in a tweet, I read her tweet about it, it was very moving to everybody, I think. And they gave a standing ovation to Dallas himself that night. And it was a great, great moment. It really was.
That is. Listening to you guys this morning on WSM Radio, you guys talked about your part in bringing Patsy Cline to the Opry as we sit backstage at the Opry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Dwayne knows that history well.
Actually, after the Oak Ridge Boys chose that name from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and moved to Nashville from Knoxville, they joined the Grand Ole Opry. And they were on Red Foley's portion, the Prince Albert portion, from 8 to 9 every Saturday night.
And what year?
This was 1948. And the Oak Ridge Quartet started the all-night singings at the Ryman. And they had a contest that they would carry all over the country, and the grand finale of the contest winner they would take to the Grand Ole Opry. And Patsy Cline was one of the grand finale winners of the Oak Ridge Quartet's contest, and the Oak Ridge Quartet got Roy Acuff to approve her to go on Red Foley's portion of the Grand Ole Opry, and our predecessors took her on the show. In fact, our predecessors were the guys playing the musical instruments behind Chet Atkins' first record. It was recorded in Atlanta, Georgia.
That is amazing.
Yes, the Oak Ridge Quartet history goes way back to the 40s.
Yes.
There's not another act that brings that much history to the stage as we do. And the guys who came before us, and of course the four of us, been singing 44 years, and he's been here almost 52 years, and him 53. That's a long time to be anywhere.
That is.
Let alone all that time singing in this particular group. So it's the history of the Oak Ridge Boys that's important.
Not long enough.
No.
Yeah, you guys are just getting started, just getting revved up.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? That's a good key. See what he said? That's the attitude of the Oak Ridge Boys. We're asked in interviews all the time, what keeps you guys together? Well, man, yes, it's the love for each other. We always say that, and it's true. Yes. It's the love for the music, the love of pure singing. We love to sing. We love to get out there and sing that harmony and be that sound. It's a cool thing to be a part of. Yes. But also it's all that history, our own history, all the years and the things that we've accomplished, all of the history before the four of us were Oak Ridge Boys, that, as Dwayne alluded to, way back to the 40s. Yes. I mean, that's a lot of history. None of us want to see it end.
Well, we don't want to see it end either.
We don't want to see it end.
I have to say the one really awesome thing about your upcoming album that I'm excited about is that you guys are recording and releasing this on cassette tape also.
Yes,
you're like going back, and before life was so automatic, and like taking a step really back, and I think that is awesome.
Well, again, Dwayne was reminding all of us in an earlier interview how that came to be, and I know that with 30 Tigers being a part of all of this, they're big on vinyl. And so we figured it was coming in vinyl, and they told us, yes, it was coming in vinyl, to which somebody said, well, how about 8 tracks? How about cassettes? And they said, sure. And then Jim Halsey, our manager, in the same meeting said, well, how about an Edison cylinder? And so
they said, sure.
Sure.
That's so awesome.
So you were there the other night when they presented us with our first Oak Ridge Boys Edison cylinder, and we donated it to the Hall of Fame. So you can see the 17th Avenue revival on Edison cylinder at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
That is so awesome. You guys talked about how you have been together 44 years.
Yeah.
How has the industry, what is the biggest difference that you've seen from then until today that the industry has changed?
Well, you know, the pendulum swings back and forth all the time. I remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, when we were just, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest act in country, along with Kenny and Dolly and a few others. And back then, it looked like country music was becoming the new pop music back then. Well, maybe that kind of went away a little bit, and then the big G plan had happened in the 90s, and Garth took everything huge again. Right now, with these kids today, I think the country music is the new pop music. I think the success of, I don't have to start naming names, there's tons of them, that the young guys and girls that are doing it today, I think they've taken country music to a level that's never been dreamed of before. And the Oak Ridge Boys, we're the older guys on the block, but we did a lot of innovative things in our day too. We were the first arena tour. We took the first big production out into an arena years ago. Now all the kids do it. But man, we had smoke and lasers and computerized Very lights from Genesis, the rock group Genesis. They were the only one. They owned that. They were the only people that did it, except we were the second. And now everybody uses computer lights, including us. But back then, you know, we added a lot of foundation to all of this too during our tenure in this business. But the kids today, they've taken it to very lofty heights, and we're proud of them. Proud of country music altogether. We're proud to be a part of it still. And you know, when we see a lot of these kids, I say kids, but you know, even some of these guys like Keith Urban and Brad Paisley and all have been around a while now. Miranda Lambert's been around 10 years already. Yeah. But Little Big Town's been around a long time. Golly, man.
They got it to work, and boy, it just exploded for them.
Yeah.
And we're proud of them.
So,
Lady
I mean,
Antebellum.
yeah.
They're all like our little brothers and sisters. Yeah. You know, and we're
the
proud
first
of
show Lady Antebellum ever did, they opened for us. And they were sitting in the front of our bus, and I remember thinking, Lady Antebellum, what the heck? What kind of name is that? But you know, it's the old thing, a name is what you make it. Think Beatles.
Right.
Okay, I mean, a name is what you make it. And they made Lady Antebellum into a Lady A, man, into the big time show. And
They write their own stuff. They sing great. I mean, we're fans of people in the business. We've never really lost that love.
Good.
And I think that's one of the reasons we're still around. We love what we do. We love our business.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Hillary and her family's album.
Yes.
What a great gospel album, huh?
Oh,
It's beautiful.
It is phenomenal.
Yes.
I love that album.
Yep.
I have sent that album actually to people, people like Dwayne was saying. I have sent that album to a few people who are going through dark times, and that album has lifted them up. And so music can do that, you know. That's what music is. That's what it can do.
It is. We were at the War Memorial last Thursday, and Linda Davis was there, and she sang a song, "Love Remains," off of that album. And then also Eddie Raven was there and sang "Thank God for Kids."
Yeah,
and
well,
that was such a huge hit for you guys.
You were with all of our extended family
Yes,
right there.
the
All
best.
of those people. That's our extended family.
Yes, Eddie wrote "Thank God for Kids," a great song. We still sing it on most of our shows. I'd say 90% of our shows, Golden still comes forward and
most requested songs.
sings "Thank God for Kids." People love it, and grandkids too. Golden adds.
It's so true. I am nanny for some kids, and my 5-year-old girl, I'm teaching her to love the old country, so she loves that, and she asked for Ronnie Millsap and the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
like, I feel proud.
Yeah, you're doing a good work.
Right? I'm like, this is what I've done. I was like, this is great.
You're doing a good work,
Yes.
Amanda.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for chatting with me. March 16th, 17th Avenue Revival. Check it out. Follow the country note, and we're so proud of you, and we wish you the best of luck with this album.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Amanda.
you.
Thank you.